All right, welcome to ANC3C's February Safe, Sustainable, and Equitable Transportation Committee meeting. Um, there are no decisions that are made at this meeting. This meeting is purely for discussion purposes. Uh, and today we have three items on the agenda, and I'm going to paste the agenda in the chat. It is also the same place that I'll take notes. Um, the three items on the agenda are talking about the a bus stroller program, designated open stroller for WMATA Metro buses, proposed resolution in support of fully funding Metro, and a letter to DDOT requesting updated plans for Connecticut Avenue. So, all right, Commissioner Nash is also here. Um, so what we'll do is, since Niwa isn't here, and he's the one who wanted to talk about the Metro buses, hey Rick, I was the only one with my camera on, so glad you joined. Now both of us can have them on, or we can turn them off too if needed. Um, if everyone's okay with it, I'd like to maybe start with the WMATA proposal since Commissioner Kripke is here and he had sent a draft around that I know folks were commenting on. So if everyone's okay, let's start with that and then we'll get to Naiwa's proposal once he gets here. Is everyone okay with that?
Certainly.
Perfect. Anyone else want to add anything else to the agenda?
If there is time, I don't know whether you reviewed the response of DDOT to the, broad traffic calming resolution we had put in. It was a little
Mhm.
underwhelming.
Yep.
Maybe if there's not time tonight, we'll take it up at the next meeting, but
I'll add it to the agenda. Um, dot. Well, that's a good idea.
Could you, sir, Commissioner Nash, could you circulate the response? I don't know if I've seen it.
I will look for it while we're on the
Yeah.
call.
I mean, only if it's easy. Otherwise, you can just describe it.
Sure.
I mean, essentially they said, "Oh, we've already done a lot of stuff, and Bruno Road is kind of okay. So,
Yeah,
you know,
citing some
whatever."
projects outside our ANC.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, okay. Let me just make chat everyone, so we can just chat with each other if we need to and put stuff in the chat. Um, all right, so let's go ahead and get started with the proposed resolution in support of sustainable budget from water draft. So, Commissioner Kripke, I will let you take it away. Let me know if you want to share your screen or if you want me to share my screen, and I can share my screen and make and put the resolution up, whatever you prefer.
Let me ask you to do it because my computer
Sure.
is pretty buggy today.
Sure.
Um, so, thanks, Commissioner Siddiqui. Uh, what is in front of you is a draft resolution that I put together from various sources, and the main point of it is to demonstrate support from our ANC and from our constituents for number one for WMATA, the transit agency generally, which is facing a real budget crisis, and really urging DC, but also Virginia and Maryland to fill the budget gap that they face, but also to encourage them to start thinking about more sustainable solutions because WMATA is a transit agency that's very unusual in that it doesn't have a dedicated source of funding. It has to basically beg for budget support from the jurisdictions on a periodic basis. I think it's annually, or maybe it's every 2 years. So this crisis is one in a long stream of crises that they've faced, budget crises they've faced, and we kind of need to dig ourselves out of that hole. So I pulled together some facts and ideas. I think our neighborhood, Cleveland Park and Woodley Park, is unusually dependent and benefits from transit with two metro stations and pretty good bus service, although of course it could be better. The budget cuts that WMATA is facing would be quite tough on our community. One proposal would likely shut the Cleveland Park Metro Station. There's 10 metro stations that are proposed to be closed completely if they can't meet their budget deficit, and they would also cancel the 96 bus and reduce frequency of the 32 and 33 buses along Wisconsin Avenue, which a lot of people in our ANC use. So it's pretty devastating, although those are extreme cases. Already there's been progress made by DC and Virginia and Maryland to meet the gap, although it's not fully met. And we can expect some service cuts and fare increases to come through unless they meet the full amount, which I don't know if they will. There's a big effort going on right now to try to meet the gap and also to try to begin to talk about longer term solutions to these budget issues. So anyway, that I wanted to kind of lay out some of the reasons why our community cares about these issues and that we want to see this short-term deficit filled, but also longer-term solutions to be identified. I know I've heard Councilmember Fruman speak on these same issues and with the same ideas. So it's partly just in these efforts. And okay, I'll stop there. I don't know if I should go through the resolution by itself. We already had some comments from Warren, which were really helpful, I think. And the document should be available to you, to anyone, to make recommendations or suggestions to. And I welcome all of them because I just pulled this together myself and would welcome improvements or suggestions. Let me stop there. I see Commissioner Prinzo has his hand up, but I'll take any kind of question, comments here, or if people feel like making comments directly in draft, you're welcome to it as well.
Go ahead, Commissioner Prinzo.
Chair, Mr.
My only question, comment, concern, well, actually two. So on the be it resolved that the commission opposes the elimination of the 96 bus. I know we passed a resolution about that, so I think we should reference it like we did, like you did for the L1 bus route to be restored. I don't remember when we passed that resolution, but I can dig it up. And then just I'm obviously in support of this. Who are we sending this to?
For me, it's mainly sort of a symbolic signal to the mayor and to the governing board of WMATA, which includes, I think, one or two council members, and to our own council member from Ward 3 that this is something we want. So that would be I think, the audience.
Okay.
Oh, and to your point, yes, there's at least two and maybe more resolutions that have been passed that are relevant to this. I think I referenced them here, but I'll make sure that to pull them up. I didn't.
I can pull. I mean, I get your 96 bus. I use the 96 bus not very frequently, but I do use it. I understand why it's the one that's on the chopping block, because I think it might be like the second longest route and it just takes forever to run. So it just can't go away though. But I'll dig up that resolution and I'll add it as suggestion.
Very good. Thanks.
Warren?
Thanks. And, so I support the resolution too. As I noted this afternoon, I just had a few suggested tweaks. I didn't want it. My understanding is that DC is already proposing to put in far more of the funding than Virginia, Maryland on a proportionate basis. And that's particularly rich because let's be real, it's the silver line, which goes up all the way out to what is it called? Well beyond Dulles. That is a large part of the deficits because it's just not getting enough ridership yet. Maybe someday it will, but not yet. But we're already putting in more than our fair share of the funding. So I asked that you might consider a tweak to just say something like in coordination with Maryland and Virginia, also contributing a commensurate amount. It's also the case that while Virginia is, in fact, now on record about putting in more funding, they want it all dedicated to a new, basically enhanced stop where they're going to put the arena. So basically, DC is going to subsidize the departure of the Capital One arena to enhance Metro to facilitate the arena out there. So, it's most unfortunate. So, but anyway, I think we should have something about, that goes to the point of our fair share.
We want to add a whereas that like we want to make sure that none of this $220 million that DC is sending goes to the Potomac Yard Station redesign.
I'd be in favor of that, but we have to be practical. I leave it to you guys. You're more of the politicians. I mean, it has to be something that's viable. That might be a lost cause, but personally, I'm fine with it. I just say that we're putting in our 250 million for operating expenses. Virginia might chip in like 150 million, but it's going to be so that they can have a much more enhanced metro station out by the arena. It's pretty ironic. And I don't think they'll have any money left over for operating expenses. And then as a, dedicated funding source, we all understand that means a tax. I'm okay with that. I'm just saying, I think we should think outside the box because tax is a euphemism for raising to having a DMV-wide sales tax of about 1%, right? So, I can live with the 1% tax, but I kind of think it's unfair to poor people. So, just noting these things. So I suggest I put a couple of words in there for your consideration.
Thanks, Warren. I haven't looked at your edits, but I'm sure I'm going to take them. They're welcome, and I don't think we need to constrain ourselves too much politically. If we want to put a whereas in about Potomac Yards, I don't see why we don't need to constrain ourselves. We don't need to be too political or too diplomatic, I think. So, Adam or Warren, if you want to put in a sentence or two about that, I would be happy to include it.
I'm with me.
I'll suggest language.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that too. I guess, Warren, one question for you. This thing that's being shown on the screen where we talk about special taxes, you added including on nonprofit educational institutions.
Yes.
So
this is to the point that so it's kind of ironic that Harvard University, which owns the entire Dumbarton Oaks and all kinds of land in DC, pays not a penny in taxes, right, to DC. But Harvard does contribute in Massachusetts to Cambridge, Watertown, even Boston, all the towns that they're in. They pay a substantial amount. It's not unheard of for well-endowed educational institutions to contribute to the communities that they're in. So, but if DC were to do that on its own, there'd probably be a congressional hearing and all this stuff. If we did it in coordination with Maryland and Virginia, taxing their educational institutions, all for a dedicated funding source for Metro, it might be more politically viable. Just a suggestion.
I guess the only reason I'm worried about is if we're worried about Harvard, I feel like we should name Harvard and Dumbarton Oaks. But I feel like I'm just a little worried this might get misinterpreted, right? Are we asking I don't know, is there if there's a special needs school, do they have to pay taxes? Are we opening the door to much more than like Harvard.
So you could
That's the
put a
thing I would worry
threshold
about.
on it. You could say any educational institution that has an endowment greater than $1 billion. So that would, no, seriously, I mean, that would pull in AU, Georgetown, George Washington, and likely Harvard, right? Well, obviously Harvard,
Well,
right?
Georgetown would get out because they'd claim that they're a religious institution.
Right.
Don't know.
And AU's endowment isn't that big.
I don't know about the religious, I'm not so sure, what they do in Massachusetts, they call it payments in lieu of taxes. Pilot is the acronym. So they're so-called voluntary, but all the schools pony up. And I could be wrong, but I think Brandeis, which is a religious institution in Waltham, Massachusetts, also ponies up. So I don't think it's.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I have a question for clarification on the special taxes. I understand that Warren is concerned about the taxes being made into sales tax, which is regressive, and I totally agree. I'm wondering whether the special taxes could be uh, exercised as a property tax, which I believe some other states do. Uh, I think that the transportation needs goes with the territory. So if legally the three jurisdictions overseeing UMATA could exercise special taxes with property tax, that might be a more fair way to go. I know that Warren replied to my inquiry and said that Virginia will never want to uh, impose an income tax, but I guess you haven't really answered the question about property tax.
Let's take Commissioner Nash's hand. His hand is up.
Yeah.
And then
Look, first of all, Galen, I support the general thrust of this resolution and, don't really have many changes. And I do appreciate the discussion here about, recognizing that to avoid service cuts and indeed to avoid the kind of service enhancements that we would all like to see is going to cost money. That said, I think it probably distracts from the resolution and gets a little far afield to begin trying to agree on tax policy, whether it's taxing nonprofit institutions or requesting payments in lieu, particularly for, institutions that maybe don't have the same footprint as they do back in Boston or something. Or calling for property tax surcharges at a time when the city is likely to be, and I think other surrounding jurisdictions are likely to be really raising assessments on residential properties when commercial property assessments, office assessments in particular, are going to be cut because that market is really under pressure. So, much as it's great to have a solution, I'd sort of stick to the thrust about, metro funding service cuts and maybe save the tax policy prescriptions for another day.
yeah, I 100% agree with Commissioner Nash here. And you're right. That was also what I was worried about with the educational institution thing. Like it'll distract from stuff. So yeah, I'd be like, I think saying that work with Maryland, Virginia to secure a sustainable and dedicated source of funding for WMATA, I feel like that's good. And then, I mean, if others feel like they want to suggest some vague things, I think that's fine. But I think when we get into like specifics of tax policy, I feel like that'll distract. Um, Commissioner Prinzo?
I just noticed there's a whereas clause. The Cleveland Park Station has been identified for closure if severe budget cuts required by WMATA. We should, if we have uh, a source for that, we should cite it there.
Commissioner
Okay.
Kripke, do you have like a source that says Cleveland Park, or does it just say 10 stations?
It says 10 stations, and under previous budget crisis, they've identified Cleveland Park. as one to close. So I haven't actually found a source for this round that
You
Cleveland
can
Park.
include old ones because it
Yeah.
would point to a pattern.
Yeah.
What if I did
Okay.
this has previously been identified for closure, and then we
Yeah.
can just cite.
I can cite it. That's fine. I'll find it.
I'm leaving notes for you here, Commissioner Kripke.
And then
Warren, go ahead.
oh,
Oh, sorry, go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I added be it further resolved that the commission asked the mayor and the council to stipulate that none of the district's funding for WMATA go to revamping or redesigning the Potomac Yards Metro stop in Virginia to account for the potential move of monumental sports. If you're okay with that language, you can change it too.
I like it. It may not be possible, but I like it.
Great.
Don't
I'm happy.
I mean, money is fungible. I mean, it's going to go into a pot and they're going to do the revamping.
Yeah.
I don't know, but why not? On the tax thing, I get all your points, Commissioner Nash and everybody. I mean, maybe you could say something perhaps more general, like, which might, you already say, which might include special taxes, which, you could have which we urge not to have an undue impact on lower income individuals or something like that. Something very, rather vague like that.
How about this, which we urge do not have an impact on lower income individuals.
Yeah,
how's that?
I was thinking an undue impact. It's going to have some impact, right? But
right,
not too much.
Or undue. Okay, undue is good. Disproportionate is also fine.
Disproportionate, like that. Disproportionate. Yep. Anyway, thank you.
Commissioner Kripke, are you okay with this?
Yeah, the thrust of it. I may do a little bit of wordsmithing along the way, but generally, I support it.
Yeah, you should come in and clean this up once we're done here.
I will.
All right. Any other comments on this or suggestions? Good catch, Commissioner Prinzo, on the citing the old stuff.
I learned from you.
All right. Well, I guess Commissioner Kripke, if you wanted to clean it up and resend this out, if I'm not hearing any objections, I mean, Commissioner Kripke, would you be okay, like, once you send it out and if everyone's okay, would everyone be comfortable, like, placing this on the consent calendar? If the
We
thrust
noticed
remains
it
most.
as part of commission business because there was no draft, but we have to, Janelle and I discussed reissuing the agenda, so we can move it if you want.
Yeah, or we can do it at the meeting. Like,
That too.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's fine.
I'm fine putting with it on the consent calendar. I suppose the only reason to list it under commission business is it gets a little more attention and focus and, gives people in the community a chance to, also address it if they want. But, if you want to put on the consent calendar, I don't object to that either.
Cool. All right. Well, if no other comments, thank you, Commissioner Kripke, for drafting that, and just send us edits when you have them. Or send us the clean
Commissioner
version when you.
Siddiqui,
Yeah.
who should I send it to? Like, from here?
So you should send it to the same place you sent the original draft, the all email address, and then um the committee members for the committee. And as soon as you send it, I'll update it on the website.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Naiwa, you are here now. So we skipped sort of talking about the strollers because we wanted you to be here. Um, so I would say like I'm gonna hand it off to you now for about the WMATA bus stroller program. And I know you sent some photos around, so I'm looking for them right now and I'll start sharing them in a second. But why don't you go ahead and start talking?
Okay, thank you, Soler, for putting this in the agenda. I apologize for getting on the meeting a little late. So I was coming back with my wife from a family event. My wife and I often go to New York to visit my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter. And on a recent trip, we noticed that the New York's MTA has started a very interesting program that they call designated stroller space. So you're seeing one of the spaces here, and the little sign says this is designated space for strollers, and so it has some instructions that the people who use this space for the stroller should set the brake and make sure the stroller is secure in place. So what it looks like is they took away the last row of the bus in front of the back door and made it into this space. And in my experience as a grandparent and many years ago as a parent, public transportation is very often not very friendly to families with children with strollers. And it used to be that many of the jurisdictions require that strollers have to be folded down, and that creates a tremendous inconvenience to families with small children, and also creates a strong disincentive for people with small children not to use public transportation. And I think in recent years, we have seen a lot of improvement. I understand that the Metrobus recently changed policy and allowed strollers to be carried on the buses open instead of requiring them to be closed. I think the same change is happening in New York City, and this designated space seems to be a very creative idea. So it provides a safe space for the families with small children, and also it gets the stroller out of the way. So otherwise, they will be in the aisle and make it difficult for everybody to get in and out. So in New York, this is a pilot program. They started a couple years ago, and last year they expanded the program. They say that by the end of 2023, they would have about 1,000 buses equipped with those designated stroller spaces. And they are continuing to collect feedback and evaluating the program. And I have not been able to find any reports, but from my casual observations, it seems to be a very popular program. The space is often well used. So I think there's something to think about for the Metro bus here in DC. I'm very glad that WMATA changed the policy from requiring all strollers be closed on the buses to a more accommodating policy now that the strollers can be carried onto the buses open, allowing the children to be seated in the stroller. But having some designated spaces for the strollers is a very interesting idea that might be good for everybody. So I would suggest that we think about the possibility of maybe encouraging the commission to evaluate a resolution to recommend WMATA to consider exploring a pilot program of our own, similar to one in New York. I'm focusing on WMATA and the Metro bus because the space is really very limited for strollers. I'm less concerned about the circulator bus that DDOT operates because it's designed with a much more open space. It's much better at accommodating strollers and people with disability needs. Therefore, my suggestion is to focus this resolution on the Metro bus operated by WMATA. Thank you.
Thank you, Naiwa. Anyone have any comments?
I love this. I actually, and it's funny that you mentioned the circulator because I just was looking at it because I was like, I've definitely seen, and they actually state that obviously they say first priority goes to people using wheelchairs or other motorized mobility aids, but that children in strollers have the second priority. I think this is great, and I hate as a born and raised New Yorker giving any credit to the MTA because they might be the only thing worse than WMATA, but kudos to them.
Oh, but on this one, I think they are a step ahead of us.
No, I agree. I agree.
So let's not fall behind.
Anyone else?
I think it seems like a great idea too.
Perfect. Well, Naiwa, I think we don't hear, I mean, we only hear support. So I think what you should do is you should draft up a resolution. And I'm happy to help you do it and get stuff up. I mean, I think one thing, just hearing Commissioner Prinzo's comment is, maybe saying like the circulator is a good example of this, right? And kind of taking the like if we want, and we can discuss this how we want to do it, but even taking the circulator example to make a point that this has been done in DC and the circulator, like how it provides priority for wheelchair users, and then second priority goes to strollers. I feel like that will, I feel like we can even go that angle or just go like have a pilot program, or however you would want to do it.
Okay, great. I'll be
I'm
glad to
actually
join.
looking at a press release from WMATA now from last March that says that they're piloting this program, but it was only on one line.
Okay.
And I can send it to you, but then there's nothing since then.
Okay.
Oh, so I'm very glad to hear that they already. I think they started in New York with just a
Yeah.
few lines, and then apparently they were happy with it. So last year they expanded, and very fortunately, one of the lines they expanded this program to is very close to is where my daughter and son-in-law live. So I've had the opportunities to try it out.
Yeah. And I
So
also
please, yeah, if Mata already has a pilot program, even if it's just on one line, I think we should recognize it,
yeah.
compliment them, and encourage them to do more.
Yeah, we should push them to expand this or at least give an update because it's been a year. So at least give an update as to like if they found what they've because I mean I'm even reading like something from DCS that was like all the parents like it's fantastic. We love this. Sorry, I'm very in the weeds now.
Um, can maybe Adam, if you can send that
Yeah,
around,
I'll send
and
that around.
and then if Naiwa, if you're on the email, Naiwa, can you ask Wamada, like ask Ann Chisholm? I think you have her email address. But
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
email her and say, hey, we're, transportation committee, we're looking for an update on this, just send her an email. She might not respond. But if she doesn't respond, then we'll ask for an update on our resolution. And if she does respond, then you'll have some extra information to work with.
yeah. Definitely. Well, let's do the homework first. So I would love to study what Commissioner Prince found, and we can go from there.
I just want to add that I co-signed all of the above and that I think this is a great idea. I also want to add that the person who's running the Better Bus Network project actually used to work at MTA and might have been involved in some of the earlier discussions about what New York did. And if we pass this resolution, I'm happy to circulate it to our colleagues across the District of
Oh,
Columbia,
great.
get them to also support it because I know there would be a number of supportive commissions regarding this, especially the transit nerd crowd. So I'm so excited that you brought this forward. It's just awesome. And as somebody who's almost captured, like caught a baby while somebody was trying to fold up their stroller, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's really difficult to have to fold up the stroller because the baby might be sleeping,
it
and
stresses me out
yeah,
watching.
it makes a lot of the young families with small children not take the bus. Or that's really defeats the purpose for having public transportation. So
Yeah.
let's do it.
And I'm totally also happy to add that women, especially women who are caregivers, are overlooked in transportation planning decisions, including how that bus was designed, so I think it's really important that transit agencies realize that it's not just white collar, like, or working class men that are using the system. And there needs to be more consideration. And I have a lot of things that I can add to the resolution in that regard.
I do want to just point out something that I personally find very funny is that in their press release, they did give Metrobus rules and manners for riding with an open stroller. And then under the for parents section, it says do. And the second one says, make sure your child gets on and off the bus with you.
You would think.
Wasn't there a film about that one time?
There was. It's a great movie. Actually, that happened in New York, and they give the baby back, and the diaper says property of the Metropolitan Transit Authority.
Cool. Well, thanks, Naiwa. One comment in the chat from Commissioner Kripke is saying he also supports it, and he said resolution or even a letter might be better. Why don't we do our homework and then see what we come up with, and then we can figure out the best way forward. But thank you, Naiwa, for bringing this up. It's always it's great to see you, and it's always good when you bring ideas like this. It's really fun.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Cool. All right. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is a letter to DDOT requesting updated plans for Connecticut Avenue. I'm gonna put this in the chat here. That's a link to the letter. I've sent it around. Warren, I appreciated your comments. Thank you for that, and thank you for also suggesting that we send it over to Councilmember Allen. So I added his name to the top. But I totally agree with you on that last email you sent about like, and I'm glad that you're also sort of pushing at it from your direction from on the advisory council as well. Um, but for folks that might not be up to speed, basically in the budget for this fiscal year, WMATA put in money for design for the updated Connecticut Avenue multimodal study. But they haven't released those designs to us. They also have not had any community advisory committee meetings. They're basically silent on what's going on, and we're not sure like what is happening. The letter essentially like set just the letter just essentially um states the previous resolutions that we supported. So that's the first one, but really is asking for updated design plans for the Connecticut Avenue and basically saying if there aren't any design plans, then we want to know how the money was spent is basically the question that we're asking. We're not really like, I mean, I guess citing the older resolutions kind of seems like we're reiterating support, but it's not like we're reiterating support one way or another for like whatever previous design we did or anything like that. It's more like give us information and asking for transparency. So that's the letter. I appreciated the comments I got back and also appreciated the ideas from Commissioner Pagets and Warren to kind of instigate writing this. I really appreciate you all bringing this up. But yeah, so I am happy to take comments and edits, and I will go ahead and share my screen. And the link is in the chat as well for others who want to look at it carefully. Commissioner Prinzo.
Sorry, I feel like I'm being annoying.
No.
I do think I love this. Just I think from my nerdy rules perspective that
Mhm.
we should add a sentence, unless I'm just not seeing it, that after we sent the letter on September 18th, that as far as I'm aware, they haven't answered us in their allotted legal requirement to do so.
They haven't.
So if that makes sense to go there, or if you just think that that's kind of rude, I mean, I understand.
No, I for some reason thought they had and just said like it's a complicated thing and we're looking at it and whatever.
I
No,
don't remember seeing any. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. No, I don't think they've answered several of those. and I'll look back, but they definitely haven't answered the September 19th one. We had also sent like 3 other DDOT resolutions, I believe, that month.
Yeah, my bike
They
share.
answered the others, but not this one. And then the commission, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam or others, the executive has to respond to like our request for information on
Within 90 days.
well, she didn't respond either.
Did we send something to her? Oh, yes, we did.
That
Yeah.
letter did go to her.
It went to her, city admin, DDOT
Well,
director.
So
Technically, the agency is under her purview. So the
right,
agency,
somebody has to respond to us within 90 days.
yeah, okay. And then Warren, maybe you know this. I'm not. I did too many oversight hearing testimonies the past few weeks. But how long is the record open on DDOT's oversight record?
I just don't know.
I was on the last panel, and Charles Allen said 14 legislative days.
So
That's like next week.
So we
Next
could get it in?
Friday.
we could get it in. Yeah, we could get it into the record. And so maybe we
I'm
just
sorry, it's the Friday after. It's not next. It's not next Friday. It's the Friday after because I think council is off.
We'll definitely get it in then.
Yeah, plenty of. The hearing was Friday, February 9th. So if you have 2 weeks, so that's I guess the 21st.
Yeah, but it doesn't count next week because it's not a legislative week.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my me nerding out over here.
So sorry.
I was just gonna say Commissioner Nash has his hand up, but if it's this topic, we can take a comment and then we can go to Commissioner Nash.
No, I was saying maybe we add something that like is specific, like in the oversight process, like this should be included in the report of the committee on this agency, like giving them a kind of more direct direction, for lack of better word.
So we hope these factors are included in the budget oversight report.
Performance oversight.
Oversight report for DDOT, like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Added that in.
Cool.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash?
Sure, thanks. So, the mayor said basically that, she was sending DDOT back to the drawing board a bit. And, I think whether one thinks that option C is the way to go or one has reservations about it, there is sort of one hole in the letter that I think you should fill in. You're kind of giving 2 requests or 2 choices. One is to provide the study or to tell you how the money was spent. But I think you should also ask that if, DDOT's assumptions or circumstances have changed, that are causing them to change the study or the design, then they should state what those are, because you may agree or disagree with those assumptions, but at least it forces them to put them out there and then you can test them.
So I guess I don't see that as necessarily a whole because I feel like it's included in please provide an update on the design plans. Like the design phase wasn't meant to retest assumptions. It was meant to design the roadway. So I feel like if we go and say, has DDOT's assumptions changed? I feel like that's opening up a whole new part of the process that
maybe, but it may be happening anyway. And the mayor kind of indicated.
We don't know that, right? Like I don't want to get in front of that, right? Like I mean, the mayor made an off comment at a thing. I personally don't want to take that as like, okay, suddenly that's gospel and we're going.
Okay. I mean, I think it would be better to know, but anyway, it's up to you.
I mean, I think asking for updated designs, I feel like if we ask for updated designs and they give us designs that look like wait a minute, what happened to your assumptions? Then I feel like then we can challenge them on assumptions. But I feel like at
Or
this
maybe
point,
they don't have new designs yet because they're,
right.
going and revalidating different things. Or maybe, there are financial reasons, but it'd be good to know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Commissioner Baggett.
The study phase is over. The feasibility is done. The study phase is done. The concept design, the concept C was selected after the studies. There's no more studying. Concept C was decided on by the mayor. It is now in design phase. That's what's been funded. We are just asking that the executive office of the mayor release DDOT to release the updated concept C designs. To be clear, we're not relitigating over 50 public meetings on this matter that's already been decided. That public money has already been spent on to, this is just frustrating, I guess. Sorry. But the studies are over. This is a project. And I guess we can be more clear in that regard because you're using the public funds to carry on the decision of concept C's design, and the public deserves to see the updated design. And I can help with this language on Friday.
Okay. Which language? The one that I just added?
I didn't see what you just said. Hold on.
I mean, I added this. I feel like Commissioner Packett's I don't think we need to get into detail. I think we just ask them for an update on the designs.
Yeah,
And that's it.
I agree
I
that's fair.
I don't think either way, like, I feel like we're pushing beyond what we know. So just getting simple update, like what's going on. That's really what we're asking for.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't want the word an update on a study anywhere in this letter.
I don't think there's the word study.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I think it's project. Well, let me do a control F. All right. Any other comments or suggestions or other feedback on this? Okay. So Commissioner Packets, if you can look at it, you know, and and just make sure that the parts about oversight and them not replying are okay. That'd be great. I think getting another eyes on a set of eyes on it would be good. Otherwise, if there are no other comments, I'll take another look at it as well and then circulate send everyone an email once Commissioner Packets has a chance to just review as well. Or I guess Commissioner Packets, once you review, just send an email out and then, we'll know.
Yeah, and when we update like the notice to the meeting, which I know we're planning on doing based on like several outstanding items from this committee and tomorrow's public safety committee, we'll also indicate that we updated this draft as well. So it's flagged with folks and they can provide any other inputs between when we do that, hopefully Saturday or Sunday, and the meeting on Tuesday.
How do I'm gonna ask my favorite question. Do people feel comfortable enough with the letter to eventually move this to consent, or do people want to leave this on our general agenda?
Let's leave it on the general agenda for now.
Okay, let's leave it on the general agenda. Cool. Thank you. So we'll move to our last item. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Packets.
Sorry, not to make this a debate, but I'm just wondering why you want to leave it on the general agenda when we're following up on the bulk of the ask is following up on
Okay, so
Great.
let's see the redraft, and then I'll probably be okay putting it on consent.
Okay,
Right?
thank you.
And also, Commissioner Nash, you're perfectly fine if you don't want to vote for it. That's also fine. Cool. Okay, so let's go to the next item, which thank you, Commissioner Nash, for adding, which is basically DDOT gave us a response on Reno Road, and Commissioner Nash just emailed it to everyone. What I'm gonna do is uh, I'm gonna find the right letter and paste it in the chat so that everyone has it as well. But in the meantime, Commissioner Nash, I'll hand it over to you to
Sure, there
talk
are
about
two
data.
letters. Thanks very much. There are two letters I sent around. One is the response from DDOT just in the last 10 days, and then the first letter is from last October, which also references a resolution the ANC did in July on John Eaton's school. And I appreciate DDOT's response, but unfortunately, it's kind of make weight because it cites to a couple of projects north of the ANC on Reno Road that are again not terribly significant. And then, within our own ANC, it speaks about replacing some stop signs, which really are more, I think, just updating a stop sign that was already there, and advisories on cross traffic not stopping at the Newark 34th intersection, but really says nothing about the meat of our letter, which had to do, as indicated, fundamentally with traffic calming and safety enhancements on the immediate streets around John Eaton's school. Other short term and then medium term efforts to improve pedestrian safety on the 34th and Reno Road roadway and cross streets, and then a consideration of longer term safety and traffic calming improvements. So one suggestion, and tell me if you think there's a better approaches for our next meeting. Let's not only have Christian there, but let him know that what we'd like to do is go through our asks and find out what DDOT's plan is to respond, or at least give us a sense of how they could respond to address our other requests. And if he needs to get one or two others there from DDOT who are more more on point to do that, that would be really useful. But it's kind of a make weight response, as I said, and I would hope that we would get something more responsive from them.
Yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner Nash. It is the response, like you said, has everything outside our ANC, and I'm just sharing the screen, but I've also linked it in the chat. I just wanted to add one piece of information, though, is that I actually reached out to Christian separately about the Macombs and Eaton traffic calming, because I know we had put that in as a separate resolution. And he actually said that they had, and I didn't even realize this, but they had actually bumped it up in their traffic safety investigation requests. So he actually believed that they've actually done the investigation for Eden and Lowell and that area that we had put up. And so he said that he was going to get back to me as soon as he finds out what it is. He said because it was a school, it was a little complicated, so it's taking a little bit of time. But yeah, like so I'm hoping that he responds to that. But I agree. I mean, I still think it's worth. I mean, it's worth asking them like what happened to everything else. Like I know the Eaton stuff is important. Maybe he can explain some of that, but also just to explain the other stuff that wasn't responded to.
Yeah, or
Um,
I don't necessarily expect a response and a plan for
right.
everything. It's unrealistic, but at least a sense of how they're going to prioritize it and when they think they can respond on these items.
Yeah, and I'll go to Commissioner Prinzo in a second, but yeah, I mean the other thing I just don't want to happen is, Christian, I mean, yeah, he communicates to us, but at the end of the day, he's beholden to
Right.
higher powers at DDOT, right? So I think if we do have a conversation, I would like us not to have like, I mean, not to say that we would, but I just want to make sure we don't just pile on Christian and then
Yeah.
kind of make it a productive of like, what's the best way? I'm not saying that's what you intended at all. I just want to make sure like
No,
when
and
we
in
reach out to
fact,
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I suggested that we, ask him who should we invite to be there, who can, discuss this in whole or in part.
Mhm. Yep. Commissioner Prinzo, and then we'll go to Warren.
Sorry, I'm just reading this, and this is just ridiculous. Do we think it's worth no, like I just think it this is my frustration with like let me just send an email and like not list anything that's within the boundaries of this ANC and just check it off my list. Do we think it's worthwhile to add, and maybe we could turn, and I know I'm asking for a lot here, the thing that we just talked about, the letter about the Connecticut Avenue study. I mean, do we want to just maybe lump it in there and just say, even when we do get answers, this is what you're responding with?
Yeah, I mean, there's two thoughts there. One, like, I feel like you're right that every time they do respond, it's horrible. But I feel like that's a broader letter than the specific ask we're making in that. I mean, we could add like a note, especially if it's going to performance oversight.
Right.
But I feel I wouldn't want to change the topic of that letter if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to change the topic of that letter to DDOT in general doesn't respond to our requests. Biggest example is Connecticut Avenue. Here's some other ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't mind adding a sentence to that letter saying this is this exempt, maybe towards the end where we talk about performance oversight, maybe adding a sentence that even though this letter is about Connecticut Avenue, we'd like to point out that DDOT's response to, in general, to traffic calming is not
Yeah.
adequate. For
And
example, our
it's
letter on
just,
Reno.
like Cumberland Street and Reno Road, we put two stop signs, like, okay. And we put four warning pedestrians crossing, like, okay, that's not, sorry. It's not, I'm not yelling. I'm carrying loudly into the void.
I know that's the pylon I was worried about. I'm just kidding. Warren.
So I may just be a voice of dissonance here. I just for personal reasons, as it happens 3 or 4 days a week, I'm driving northbound up Reno Road towards Tinley Town around 5 p.m. And I would really encourage you all to see what the situation is like. It is now, I mean, traffic calming. I don't think people are going more than 3 or 4 miles per hour all the way from, as it is, from like, say, Cleveland Avenue to Van Ness. After Van Ness, it seems better. But like, it is already complete gridlock to the point that, like, just to get onto Reno Road, the traffic backs up down Woodley, past Twin Oaks, the Taiwan Place, past all the way down to like Klingle, where I mean, it's like totally dangerous. I mean, with the congestion. And like the idea of removing turn lanes as you propose, I mean, if the idea is to just create complete gridlock I hope that maybe fewer cars will go. I mean, I would just like urge you to take a look at the original proposal again, because I mean, as it is, I swear, I don't think people are going more than 3 or 4 miles per hour all the way from Cleveland to Van Ness on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday
Yeah,
afternoon.
well, Warren, I mean, you're right, and I've been out there at 5 o'clock, in the afternoon some days as a pedestrian and sometimes as a driver, and it can get gridlocked and backed up, and that includes the various streets around the cathedral, whether it's Garfield or Woodley or streets east of there. But as you point out, you know, actual speed is just one element of traffic calming, and gridlock itself can create safety issues. And, I've seen it as well when, drivers are frustrated and they use that center turn lane and they'll use it as a bypass or passing lane and go several blocks. That's maybe more frequently in the morning when, traffic is a little more flowing, but that affects school kids and everything else. We're not the traffic engineers. We don't have all the answers. The letter just asked them to study different aspects of it, but one way or another, it's a road that needs some attention after, the last time they looked at the engineering of it was 25 years ago. Unfortunately, they got rid of what had been a reversible center lane.
Yeah, I mean, Warren, while I agree with you, like, so I cross that road all the time. I crossed it today at 5 p.m. I can tell you that even though it was gridlock, crossing at Ordway, 34th crossing at Ordway as a pedestrian is scary because they don't stop. Like even when it's gridlock, they like try and get through the junction, and it's like bad sight lines, and especially when you get up to Rodman. But the other part is at 5 p.m. it's gridlock. At like 2 p.m. it's like cars speeding through. And on and random times weekends. So well, I totally agree with you that there are cars slowing down there. It's not all the time. And even when they are, like, there's tons of intersections where it's just, even if they're like at a halt, like it's just very, very scary to cross the road.
I get it. I'm just saying some unintended consequences, and now like you're having, just dangerous things on some of the side streets leading into 34th and Reno Road. And uh it's just, it's just really it's just really bad. I have seen exactly what you're talking about, Commissioner Nash. Even at 5 p.m., they're doing that thing about we need more enforcement, if nothing else. That I
Yeah.
couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that the other day. Someone doing this crazy dangerous thing of going through the turn lane just to pass. I was shocked, but I'm just saying that this is the level of frustration of drivers right now about the gridlock that already exists on that street.
Have to get those drivers out of their cars. Um, cool. All right. Well, thank you, Commissioner Nash. I think we have some action items on this. So what we'll do is, Commissioner Nash, if I guess if you wanted to draft a response to Christian, or would you like me
Yeah,
to come up with something?
I'll do that and send it to you and anyone else who'd like
Yeah,
us before we go. I wouldn't, intend it to be comprehensive, but just point out that, the response seems very preliminary because it
right.
includes some items that are outside the ANC and only one thing in the ANC, and it was mostly, only updating
Yeah.
what existed before. So
Yeah, we might need to send it through Commissioner Packets because it was like going through the commission. But so maybe if you can circulate to the three of us, and then three of us can agree on some language, and then we can see like how Commissioner Packets wants to handle it.
sounds good.
Cool. And I'll update you all when I hear from Christian about Eden School traffic calming and stuff. So
Okay.
all right. So we are past 3 minutes. You all know how I don't like long meetings. Anyone else want to bring anything up? Okay. Well, thank you all. Thanks for such a great committee meeting. Really appreciate you all. And then yeah, we'll vote on certain amounts of these things at our Tuesday meeting, and then have some more next meeting. So thanks everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.